Well, stars are returning for some sides. Suspensions are biting some others, and injury lists are certainly stacking up for a number of clubs. Round 9 is where some clubs' depth will be bolstered and others will be severely tested. This is one of those weeks where team lists will actually tell the story of the competition and where teams are sitting and how they should shape. We've got origin level players coming back in, key suspensions pulling apart spines, and a few teams hanging on by a thread in key positions. As always, if you like your rugby league, make sure to hit like on the video, subscribe on the channel, and get involved in those comments. Let us know who you think is the biggest chance of an upset this weekend as we head into round 9. The high-level themes of this week's Team List Tuesday: major spine disruptions versus major spine returns. Reece Walsh and Kalen Ponga are back in the 1 jerseys for their clubs. Api Coruscant has been suspended for multiple weeks with a hip drop. Forward pack carnage continues. We've got Viliami out with a pec injury. Mitch Kenny still out until mid-season, which is hurting the Panthers, though they're not showing it too much. And concussion and HIA ripple effects everywhere with returns and absences. Murray Taulagi now multiple head knocks means probably a multi-week absence for the Cowboys. Zach Hosking, Ali Lautawa, and Mitch Barnett all impacted. Realistically, as it always is, availability is king. Let's move into the first of the games. Let's talk the Bulldogs and the Cowboys. And as I touched on, Viliami kicker out with a pec injury. No return date confirmed just yet. Satili Tupanua will start in his place for the Dogs. Anari Tawala comes back from a hamstring injury, which sees Marcelo Montoya drop back to the bench. And Harry Hayes is out of action with a tripping suspension. On the other side, we've got the Cowboys. Taulagi gone for concussion. He's second in 3 weeks. He'll be having an extended absence, unfortunately. Zach Labert comes onto the wing, and Jeremiah Nanai named again in the starting lineup. Will they play their switcheroos again, the Cowboys? He continues to recover and build back from that shoulder injury. Well, the Bulldogs, they've had some holes plugged. They've had even more pulled out, but the Cowboys are struggling with those concussion issues out wide, and their depth is being tested. I think this one being at the Bulldogs, I'm going to go the Dogs to get it done in a tight one. But again, they have been far from convincing so far this season in 2026. Speaking of not convincing, the Storm head to the Dolphins. For the Dolphins, Jake Averillo is going to undergo hand surgery. He'll miss about 6 weeks of rugby league. That means Trey Fuller shifts into the centre. Schneider remains in the halves. Morgan Knowles is back at lock for them with a return from a calf injury, while Jack Bostock and Kurt Donahue are pushing returns on their extended bench from key injuries. For Melbourne, Jerome Hughes is out with concussion protocols. That's a big absence. Tyron Wishart will come in at halfback. He's Mr. Versatile, and he's going to need to be this week. Hugo Peel debuts on the wing, and Adavalu Lasardi returns from a calf injury. Trent Toliau is added to the interchange for a potential club debut. So the Dolphins, they're reshuffling their edges. The Storm without Hughes is a big structural shift. He's been a key and constant part, and they are sitting on a 6-game losing streak. Never in the club's history have they gone on a 7-game streak. So is this a record about to be broken? The Storm are in the habit of breaking records, but not normally ones like this. What magic can Craig Bellamy work on the road as they head to the Dolphins? I'm going to go the Dolphins to win this. I think it'll be a reasonably low-scoring game by current standards, and I think the Dolphins will get it done by a try or just a little more. Next up, we've got the Titans versus the Raiders. 2 sides trying to claw their way out of the cellar. AJ Brimson is back after missing their last game with personal leave for the birth of his second child. Chris Randall comes back in at lock from a calf injury. Cooper Bye dropping back to the bench. For the Raiders, Noah Martin is out. Double syndesmosis injury, surgery pending. When I say double syndesmosis, that's both ankles. He's done a proper job there. Zach Hosking is out as well with concussion. Simi Sasagi does come back in a boost to the Raiders, while Chevy Stewart will be the new face in jersey 14 on the reshuffled bench. The Raiders, their depth is getting stretched in the middles and the edges with all of these players dropping. The Titans, they're getting some stability back. Not easy to say this considering the shirt that I'm wearing, the team that I follow, but I think the Titans get this one done by a narrow margin. The Raiders have been far from convincing. And then we head to the Eels versus the Warriors. The Eels, an unchanged squad. Dylan Walker named, despite the fact he couldn't finish last week's game against Manly due to an arm injury or concern, depending on how you view it. For the Warriors, they welcome Luke Metcalf back. He's going to come via the bench from that hamstring injury. Adam Pompey comes in. Ali Lautawa is out with concussion. Tennis Towers Smith also back from a hamstring injury, but Mitch Barnett is the big out here. Concussion protocols mean he is out of action. Keep an eye, though, Tamare Martin named on an extended bench in jersey 22, returning from a leg injury. He might be a sneaky outside chance of sneaking back in, depending on where Metcalf is as well. Warriors, they're getting some pieces back, but they're still very disrupted. The Eels have finally got some continuity. They didn't exactly get it done last week, but what can they do here at home against the Warriors? The Warriors are a little thin on depth. If their middles can take it to a depleted Eels squad, then they can get the job done. I think they do win this one, the Warriors, and continue to prove that they are a contender. Speaking of contenders, the Roosters up against the Broncos. The Roosters astoundingly the same squad for 4 straight weeks. This is phenomenal. Very few teams have this sort of consistency, especially in the current era with all of the injuries and suspensions that we're seeing. For the Broncos, changes are plenty, and that's going to be the big question. How do they settle into the rhythm? Walsh is back. Pat Carrigan is back as well. 2 huge ins. Carrigan back from suspension, Walsh from injury. That does mean, though, that some players are missing out, and a couple of them not by choice. Brendan Piakura is out. Preston Ricky is out. Piakura, a knee injury, so he'll see a specialist for final decisions. Ricky is a suspension. Jesse Arthurs and Orblix Tawar both cleared to return via the extended squad. Hayes Perham will drop back to the bench with Walsh returning at fullback, while Xavier Willison will slot into the starting side for the suspended Ricky. The Broncos' spine is restored. The pack is still a little patchwork, but is improving depth. It'll be interesting to see whether they can hit the ground running with Walsh back at the back. I think it might take them a week or two, so I'm going to go the Roosters to continue their run. Speaking of teams that are absolutely bolstered, well, the Knights bring back a host of names. Kalen Ponga is back from a hamstring. Bradman Best is back from a groin injury. Greg Marziu back from a concussion. Tyson Frizzell back from a rib injury. And Dylan Lucas from a throat injury. That means major reshuffles. Ponga in at 1. Sharp to 5'8". Sandon Smith and Fletcher Hunt drop back to the bench with Bradman Best starting in the centres. Again, adjustment period incoming and possibly expected this week. For Souths, Keon Kolomatangi comes into the starting back row for Brandon Smith, who has a calf concern, has been named on the extended bench. Jamie Humphries has been named despite a rib issue, and Adam Elliott is pushing for a return from a long-term calf injury against his former side. The Knights are basically back to full strength. Souths are managing some workload and niggles. This one's a flip of a coin. If Ponga can hit the ground running and everyone can slot back in, the Knights could absolutely blow the Rabbits away. But the Rabbits showed their form last week, and with welcoming key players back in, I think they're going to be bolstered. I think this will be a high-scoring affair, and I think that the Rabbits get it done. I think there'll be 60-plus points in this one, but the Rabbits will get home against the Knights in Newcastle. We then go Sharks up against the Tigers. Cam McInnes has been named to return to the starting side as he builds from this ACL return. Britton Nakora comes into the starting side for Billy Burns, who shifts to the interchange. And Braden Ueli is in line for his 3rd NRL game of the year, named on the 6-man bench. But it's on the other side of this clash that there is the most news. Api Coruscant out, 3-game suspension for a hip drop tackle. Tristan Hope starts at hooker. Jareem Buller out, a shoulder aggravation. He'll be replaced by Sunya Taruva. And then Kai Pearce-Paul is out. He failed his HIA, which means Tony Sukar comes into the starting side, replacing him. The Tigers' spine's been hit hard here. The Sharks are gaining continuity. I think the Sharks get the W here and just bring the Tigers a little bit of a reality check in the Shire. And last but not least, we've got the Panthers against the Seagulls, 2 of the form sides of the competition. Is it going to be the Panthers marching on, or will Fosball claim another victim? The Panthers, same squad again. As we touched on off the top, Mitch Kenny is still out, is being their biggest concern, but they look like they didn't miss a beat without him. For Manly, Corey Waddell's out, a pectoral injury. Nathan Brown gets recalled. Joey Walsh again named in the extended reserves, but I don't think he'll feature. The Panthers system is rolling. Manly just keep plugging gaps under Kieran Foran, and it's working for them. But I think the Fosball train comes to a halt at this station in the Penrith game. Panthers to get this one done and continue their momentum. Well, round 9, it's going to come down to who gets their stars back and who can survive the injury grind. Whose stars are going to slot straight in and who's are going to see a little bit of an adjustment period. Watch those Broncos, the spine with Walsh in, Carrigan added to the pack. The Knights are fully loaded again. The Tigers, how do they respond without Api Coruscant? And the Storm, no Jerome Hughes, but their backs were already against the wall before that. Make sure if you love your rugby league to hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the channel, drop your tips below, and of course, lock in for another huge weekend of rugby league action. Look forward to catching you on our next team list Tuesday and our daily doses in between here on your home of the Black and White of Sports and the Grey Opinions, the Chris McPherson Show.